Okay, people, let's get the show on the road. Thank you very much for coming. I mean, it's cool to see so many people here and quite a few faces that I don't know, which is even better. So the system is terribly complicated, and I'm sorry about that, but I was just really trying to think how we can make sure that we get as many voices heard as possible without being here until tomorrow, if there were too many people. So we really want your input. That is the main thing tonight. I'm going to just give you a few pointers and make a few comments, and then it will be up to you to start talking. And it's not a panel discussion. It's not going to be a lecture or anything like that. This is just to start the conversation going as to how the community can become properly involved. So when we had this idea, we were standing on the Barelas site, actually, where Tent City used to be, or Camp Faith as it was then called. We were just so frustrated. Everything that we tried just didn't quite seem to work out, and we thought, okay, it's time for another public forum. So a lot has happened since then. At that stage, we were really obsessed almost with the idea of finding a longer term and more sustainable solution. There's a crisis in the city. It's not a new crisis, but now's the time to sort it. So the thinking behind the forum has changed slightly. So, I mean, it's still called for longer term solutions. And yes, we really seriously need those. But now we also know from experience, because we've now been on the streets and know this sort of firsthand, watching people suffer, that we also need interim solutions. So that is a slight change. There are two conditions on tonight's discussion, if you don't mind. We want a positive outcome. So I could, on my own, carry on forever complaining about the city leadership. It's not going to bring us anywhere tonight. Please join me afterwards and we can really get going with that. The other thing is, and I really trust this is not even needed to be said, but I am going to say it, we don't want to criticize the people who don't have shelter. So it's not that type of meeting. It's not, oh, they've just got to go and find a job. We're not going there, and I will cut anyone off who tries to. So with this whole complicated system with the index cards and so on, we don't know how long people want to speak. We don't want to just listen to one person. It's a very broad topic. I think you also realize this is now just the start of the conversation, and we're not going to, unfortunately, sort everything tonight. So we're actually going to draw numbers out of not a hat. I mean, it's a colander, but it sort of looks like a hat. So that it's up to Lady Luck. I'm not going to be responsible for not allowing someone to speak or something like that. So, okay, now on the index cards, that's almost going to be your little record for us. So we want your contact details, and then there are various documents that we've got access to that we would then be able to share with you. We're not going to make paper copies, okay? There are some people who do not use email, and then I will get stuff to them personally. But I can't do that for everyone. So 3 documents that I already know about. If you're interested in receiving any of these documents, please make a note on the index card. Steve Kramer one of our members, who's now sort of wishing he wasn't here, did a fantastic job on getting a proposal going for transitional housing, mixed-use situation. And we are giving that to the City Council. I think all the City Councillors have already received it. Well, quite a few of them have already. And we are going to use that as further pressure to try and get the city authorities to start working on a specific plan. So if you were interested in receiving that proposal, just write down proposal. The other thing is, Lupi and Bruce went to visit the Las Cruces organized or sanctioned tent city. And Lupi then also brought back several reports and documents from that. So I can also scan that and then distribute it so that people can also have that as some baseline of what already works. It is working. So if you're interested in receiving that, write down Las Cruces. And then the third thing that I know about right now, but more things might come up during the evening, is we're doing, ABQ Justice is doing a People's Tribunal on the 14th of March. And that is specifically on police brutality, but it is clear that the criminalization of the homeless is part of the larger structural underpinnings of the brutality. If you want more information about that tribunal, write down tribunal. It's almost like bingo, hey? So, yeah. So the reason we gave you the clipboards and the little notepads and so on is so that you can definitely give us your input. So even if you might not be able to speak tonight, then at least we would be able to capture any questions that you have, any suggestions, any good contacts, whatever. I don't really care. I'll type it up, I'll send it out to the listserv, or then hard copies to people who don't use the internet. If someone didn't bring note paper, there is some paper on the table in the back where Father Frank's sitting. We've also got some extra pens, so go and help yourselves. So this is now where this change might come in. We've become very aware of the value and the need, the value of and the need for community involvement. So I almost want to put out a challenge there, that we start changing our worldview so that we don't just then sit back and think, oh, well, there is this state authority, they'll sort it. We've got to try and find ways that we can sort it, that we can help. And it could be small things. Dinah, one of our members, Dinah Vargas, had this fantastic idea of having a baggie with you, several little baggies, you know, like a care packet type of thing. So when you go to the dentist, they always give you a toothbrush and some toothpaste and so on, and it might not be something that you then actually need. So if you don't need that, put it in a packet. Some of us are fortunate enough to be able to stay in hotels, and they've always got all these little bottle goedertjies there. So grab them. I'm sorry for the hotels, but I'm actually feeling worse for the people who don't have. Grab all those bottles, grab whatever you can, whatever sample, put it into a baggie. Make it specific. Have some baggies with pads and tampons in it. Have some bags with condoms in it. And I'm saying those words because we also need to get beyond this business of, personal hygiene. Some toilet paper, because that's another thing. The people need to go to the bathroom. They might not have toilet paper. Whatever, just keep those baggies with you. When you see someone and you don't want to give them money, hand them a baggie. So start actually thinking along those lines, and I think then other things will start following from that. So, speaking of bathrooms, through the glass door, there are two. Then also, I would like to point out to you this display of the Valentine's cards. This is one of those really sad stories. I had reached out to Anita Amstutz of the Albuquerque Mennonite Church for donations and so on. And she had made announcements in the congregation. And then one of the teachers at the Mahogany Community School started working with her first graders, and they decided, okay, well, Valentine's Day is coming up. Let's make some cards for Tent City. And then the Kiddywinkles did that. And then just at that time was the eviction from the Barella site. So the people were dispersed again, and this happens frequently. The moment the people are dispersed, they're out of sight, out of mind. So we have not given this to the people, but then Sue was clever enough, kind enough to actually put up the display, and it's now been there ever since. And of course, it then also helps to raise awareness. And then you'll see there are photographs and some posters and stuff around it. And that is some of the other work that ABQ Justice is doing as well. And it all ties in together. I presume everyone in this room knows the name Abba Boyd, James Boyd. So he was a homeless person, had some mental difficulties, and he was camping. And he was not allowed to camp. And he was killed. He was murdered. By the police. We know that, Kathy. So it all ties together, all these various aspects. Okay, so that's me for now. I'm just going to pass two jars around. The one is for the P&J. Sue is not charging us for the use of the room tonight. And the P&J is a fantastic facility. Many of you know it. Many of you volunteer here. So it's to keep the lights on. So that's this one here. If you could just put in whatever you can, a few pennies, whatever, it doesn't matter, but it's just to show Sue that we appreciate this. The other jar is again a really sad story. It's a guy called Ray. He has no legs. He's completely destitute. He tried to get some vouchers so that he could get off the streets for a bit and had no luck. So members of our group of ABQ Justice had paid for a hotel room for Ray until mainly Dinah could then organize the vouchers. And then the voucher was extended, but we now already know that the vouchers don't work. So on Tuesday, the first batch of vouchers started running out. And then Wednesday, the majority. So the first group of people had then decided they're going to try again and get a critical mass together and have a starter camp again. The first night, yeah, it was a bit rocky. There were a lot of cops and so on, but they were able to stay at the site. Then last night, they received an eviction notice again after dark, and Ray was already there. So here's this man sitting in his wheelchair, the sweetest guy, and he's now also evicted. So now we already don't know where the other people are going, but I think it's a little bit more difficult if you don't even have legs. So Steve had negotiated that the people would then be able to stay until this morning at 8. So the people are again away. And until things are sorted out, we feel that we just need to help Ray. So one of our members has already paid for a hotel room for Ray for tonight. Another member is also going to try and pay for the next night. But we've also found out that if we were able to book a room for him for a week, it actually works out cheaper. So, for Ray, whatever you can give, please. And this is not the only spot where we're fundraising, but I thought, well, who knows? Someone might have $2, one for the P&J and one for Ray. Okay? So, I think what we can start off doing is, if someone wants to speak, I'm going to do this business now with drawing the numbers. Try and think about, do you want to speak about a problem? You know, how do you see the problem? Any questions, any problem areas that we need to consider as we're trying to move forward? Or do you have a specific solution? Some people are already working on a particular tract, a particular direction. So then perhaps talk about that. We aren't that many people, so I would say 3 to 4 minutes. Renee is going to be our timekeeper. Just put up your hand, Renee. Thank you. And then if we feel that you're starting to repeat yourself after 3 minutes, I might just already say, okay, yeah, cool, we get it, and then let the next person speak. But just in case it's perhaps a bit more complicated, then perhaps go on a little bit. So we'll have a few people speak, and then we can perhaps start brainstorming as the full group whether we want to perhaps start doing some working groups. Because again, some people might want to work on the immediate situation. Some people, I mean, we've got all kinds of skills in the room. So also speak up, what are your skills? And then let's get some working groups together and people can sign up for those. Cool? So I'm going to get the colander and then we can draw a number. Thank you. If I call your number and you don't want to speak, you don't have something to say yet, I know several people are here, they just want to start listening and sort of ease into it. It's cool. Then just say, no, I don't have anything to say, and I'll put your number back, because it might then come up later, okay? So number 27. Put it back. You can't all say that. Number 23. Don't be shy.
I don't really have much to say. My name is John. Glad to be here.
So, okay, so John, let me ask you some questions then. Get this going.
Now you're in.
How often do you see homeless people?
Most days, probably.
And where?
I don't have a car, but I bike to work, and there's another campsite. I'm not sure if anyone else knows about it. Along the... I don't like to hear myself, so I keep it further away. But, yeah, so there's an encampment somewhere between Carlisle and Constitution, somewhere over off the northern diversion channel.
Can you write down is this thing on? It's okay. Can you write down the directions for us?
Sure.
Because we've only been concentrating on the people who used to camp on First and Iron, but it's important to also start getting an audit together because we know that there are all these other encampments. We've just not had the resources to start reaching out to them. So that's already one thing that could happen. So when you encounter someone that you think might be homeless, I mean, that's already a presumption, I realize, how do you react? Do you reach out to them? Do you try and avoid them? What do you do?
I don't have a whole lot of. I'm usually on my bike, so I'm usually moving, so I'm not usually in contact with them. I see more on, like around campus in this area. Don't really have much to do with them. Say hi, and that's about it. Don't avoid them. But
I don't know whether people know about the Peace Cafe here on Thursdays from 12 until 3. One of the things that I really like about the Peace Cafe is that it actually brings those demographics together into the same room, because we don't always have that much to do with people, but then it's actually important to start having lots to do with people. Thank you.
That's why I'm here. I have grandiose ideas. I have long-term potential plans I could show to anybody because I've been brainstorming them for a couple of years. There's no reason why we can't take an incredible group of people with need and fulfill a future idea of sustaining ourselves here in Albuquerque. Change Albuquerque, change the way we view each other, raise our own food, convert to alternative electricity. This is what I want to happen. This is what will and should and very easily can happen at the right timing. I have nothing other than the idea of, and it's quirky, I know it's really quirky to say this, but foster care. Why not? I mean, come on, I've been among 300 to 400 homeless people in one moment. I know not everybody's heart is made of gold. I know that there are backstabbing opportunities. I don't ever want to propose any kind of program or gathering that would allow something like that to occur because of haphazard planning, let's say. But think about fostering. You have a child, the child's world has totally collapsed. The service agent is looking you in the eye and saying, I understand you'd care to foster. Would this child work out with you? Why can't we establish, it's the most immediate thing I can think of, some kind of organized thinking, if you will. We don't have to have a department for foster care. And it could be subsidized by the government, and then we would be doing our part to involve them in a viable, friendly opportunity.
That's cool. Thank you, Paige. Okay, one more. 8. Oh, did you perhaps hand back your card? No, it's on there. On the other side, Jenny?
Jenny's number is 0.
No. Otherwise, I'll call it again. Okay, Arlena.
Hi, my name is Arlena. I attend Art Street, which is a art outreach program through Healthcare for the Homeless. It's located downtown at First and Mountain, and their hours are 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Thursdays, and 11 to 4:30 on Saturdays. And the goal of Art Street is to, it's mostly homeless people that attend. There's also other community members. I am not homeless, but I am low income. And it's just, they provide art materials of paint, magazines for collage, a wheel for making pottery. And their goal is to provide a non-threatening, non-judgmental environment for people who are on the streets to have somewhere to go, and if they would like to be connected with services to help them transition away from homelessness, they can. Another organization that I'm involved with is Off Center, and that's similar to Art Street. It's 808 Park Street Southwest. It's a little bit east of Java Joe's, near the roundabout downtown and near Robinson Park. They have various programs. They have everything from drawing to writing to knitting and crocheting to guitar that people can be involved in. They also have an open studio. So at those places, I encounter people who experience homelessness fairly regularly. So those are just some programs that are helpful to the community. So, yeah.
Thank you, Arlena. Okay, so let me throw out this question. Temperature check. People here, how do you feel about a tent city? Let's start at that level, because that is one of the things that we've now been working with that could actually immediately happen if we just got a piece of dirt. So just that, hey? So how do people feel about the idea of a tent city? Is it positive? Is it negative? Let me first ask who is dead against the idea of any type of tent city? Any type. Yeah, no, I want to sort of first see whether people just feel, no, that is just completely wrong. No, it's cool, Loopy, it's cool. Doesn't matter. So, okay, so who sees problems with a tent city? Why don't you start? Benedict?
Problems consist of that a lot of times tents are inadequate for keeping people safe from the elements. Even in the heat of the summer, it can be very intense in tents. And additionally, you need to have facilities so that people can do bathing, and toilets needs to be made available. There are additionally problems with if people have canines or felines with them, they could be running about with presenting problems to the other members. I have cats and dogs myself, so I've also been homeless. So those are some of the things. Then also, I think that a lot of times people think, oh, those are homeless people, we can go and exploit them. And it's easy if they are in a compound and you say, oh, yeah, you know, all those people are over there, let's go get them. And we've experienced these things on all levels, including from APD, and even teenagers are known to engage inappropriately with others, and those are some of the things that I see as problems with the tent city.
Okay, so just to frame this properly, thank you very much. This is not to then say, okay, we're just taking that off the map. That type of input is enormously valuable to us, because then we can just start thinking, okay, so if we were to have something a little bit more organized, what are the things that we should be thinking about? So don't hold back. It's not that you're then criticizing or such, but you see some problems with a model, and then if we know about those problems, then we can try and address them. So anyone else? Mimi?
I was just wondering if we could get a brief feedback from the folks that went to Las Cruces that might inform this.
Okay. Mimi, do you perhaps want to come forward and give it just some of your impressions? Just come on. Come forward, come and stand here, and then just give us a little bit of what you experienced.
Just for the tent city itself?
Yeah, just go and speak in the mic.
Okay. As far as, I'm going to just speak about the tent city right now while it's fresh on my mind. I couldn't have seen anything else better than that, to tell you the truth. And I might get ahead of myself a little bit here, so bear with me. I see the tent city as a beginning for what they're going to build for their future, because the tent city has so many unbelievable organizations all around them. And they paid, the city of Las Cruces paid for land back in 1993. Yeah, and the tent himself came in 4 years ago. But getting back to the tent city, I have to rephrase that again, or say it, not rephrase it, I'm sorry. My Spanish wants to come in, people, I'm sorry. Again, I can't say that I would want not them to have no tents, no. Because I see them being with all kinds of help here in Albuquerque. I want what Las Cruces has here in Albuquerque. And all of us people and organizations can make this happen, that's for sure. And we need Barelas to really come in and help also. I'm going to hold a meeting over there in Barelas. So anyway, yeah, I wouldn't want it to be any other way. It's very organized, and most importantly, it's a community. It's a community that they have there. And yes? They're allowed to have a dog. Every one of the people there can have animals. And no, because they have meetings there regularly, and Randy is the one that holds them every Tuesday, and they all come together from the people from the tents, you know, and Randy will ask them, are there any bad things or good things that have happened? I want to hear it, and we're going to talk about it and make it right. And right there, I mean, I've never seen such polite people and so respectable. Randy will not tolerate people getting in other people's faces, you know. That's out of the question. Respect is what that tent city is all about there. Yeah. Oh, 50 people are allowed in the tents, you know. I'm sorry? 45. Mm-hmm. And then they fill the other ones that are leaving. After they've been helped and so forth, yeah.
What do they do with the problems of drug misuse?
Oh my goodness, that's like my vision I had. But anyway, yeah, and so they help those people. There's help right there on site. From mental illness to drug abuse to
all other things that mentally. I said I want to say medical is what I want to say. That's available there. They have a medical clinic on site. They have a daycare center there on site. You name it, they have it. I'm sorry? Yes? Well, I've learned since I've been around homeless people that some like to be where they're at. My motto is this, and you have the ones that do and don't want to be there, and they respect that. Maybe they'll try for a little while, and then they'll be allowed to leave, but always welcome back. They're always welcomed back.
So there's not like a timeline that they have to stay 6 months if you're not or anything like that?
Not that I'm aware of. I did not ask that question, but that's a good question to ask Matt. And Matt and what's the other guy's name? Randy?
Well, Matt's going to be here at the homeless conference in April.
Yes. And he's the one. Matt was homeless. Matt was homeless himself from the time that he was 18 years old. And he lived in tents after tents all the time and was out there homeless. But when he came to Camp Hope, excuse me, they saw him, they saw ability that he could have, and so they hired him there. And he has people from all over the world right now trying, United States and all over the world trying to, they have contacted him, to see how, just like I did, me and my husband. I wanted to bring this to Albuquerque, so I did, so. Yes?
What programs are in place to get the people who want to leave the tent city into more permanent housing? And how can we implement
They have that
it?
too. That's why I wanted to say again with the tents, because they're going to put them through these phases, okay? And then they can go off and live on their own
Right.
in
Can you describe
apartments.
those, though?
I'm sorry?
Can you describe what these programs are so that we know how we could do that here?
In fact, where is she? Yeah, she's going to
That's
give
one
you
of
all.
the reports. So if you want to receive the report, index card.
Just write report?
Yeah.
Las Cruces.
Yes, yes. Do you know, mi amor?
For the most part, they're self-supporting by the community. They get a lot of donations and churches and groups, all the civic groups help out. And so a lot of the services that the people in the tent city get are community driven that way. Additionally, all those agencies are nonprofit agencies in the complex that do all those things. My guess is they're run just like any other nonprofit. The staff is paid for by the nonprofit. They provide the service. The difference is they're all at one location site, like the soup kitchen's there, the medical center's there. There is also a
Daycare center.
daycare center's there. And then they have a agency that can give referrals to other places.
Give me a piece of dirt.
Okay, so the government has nothing to do with it? Because the government has a responsibility.
What did
also to
Matt
Well,
provide
the government put those agencies there in the first place. The other thing that the government does is they're supportive of the city in itself.
City government,
Yes, the
not the
city,
state government, I
yes,
say.
the city of Las
the local
Cruces
government.
is supportive of the idea.
Okay,
So therefore, by the city being supportive, they're not getting the type of feedback that you've been hearing in our local media.
so what you have is like a joint effort, community
Everybody-
and
So-
government involved.
I am so amazed, ma'am, in what I saw. I saw the most supportive community between all of them. It's just, I just couldn't believe it. It was just like I had a vision probably a week before we went over there, yes?
And are there families in the tents or is it individuals? 'Cause
All
I
of the
imagine.
above,
Okay, so children and
all of the above
families
can
and
be
tents.
there.
Is the daycare center staffed by the residents or by outside people?
That's a good question.
My guess is that's a
I believe-
nonprofit agency that has licensed people running the daycare. That's my
Yeah.
guess. I will not sign my name to it, but I think it's run like any other daycare center.
So you said the piece of dirt was in 1990, what,
1993.
So does that mean that Tent City's been running since then, or just
No,
recently?
Tent City's only been there 4 years.
4 years, okay.
I need your name and phone number.
Are you talking to me?
Yes, the nurse.
Are there, I assume that there are no religious service requirements for these folks?
None. None. None.
When can we move in?
I know. See there?
So I wondered about the physical,
I'm sorry.
the physical attributes. So there's a big lot, does it have a fence? Is there a building that was converted from classrooms or something
It has a very
else?
big lot with all of the organizations right there on the same premises.
But how is that, how are the organizations housed? I mean, is it old,
They have their
school
buildings.
building?
They have their buildings all there.
So are they like, those classroom buildings that are? Portable classrooms or what?
No, they look like they've been built with block or brick or whatever. Yeah.
And is that new or?
I'm sorry?
I mean, how did they get the buildings and then the people who run the agencies and then the tent? I mean, this is a long-term vision, or did those organizations have a headquarters there and then there was a lot that they let people live on, or?
Well,
do you know the
it's
evolution?
still in Las Cruces, and it's only just a little bit out of Las Cruces there.
Let me take this one, Lupe.
Okay.
I think if anybody wants to, there's a Camp Hope website.
Okay.
And I think if you go on the internet and look up the Camp Hope website,
All
those
those
detailed
questions.
questions and stuff will be in some of that material.
That daily diary is very informative for like a lot of these questions as far as day to day. She writes on there, or he does, I guess, about what comes up in the camp just on the website. It's kind of interesting to follow it.
So that's a blog?
No, she just has that little bit on, or somebody does. I don't know if it's a he, she, but they just have the little thread on the website.
That's what?
So there are 2 more questions that we're going to take on this, okay, Lupe? So Arlena, 3.
2 more questions?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Oh, no.
The Albuquerque Journal did a story on the
Yes, they
Las
did.
Cruces tent city as well.
Yes, they did.
And it was actually a pretty good story.
When?
It was,
So I'll find that article if you're interested, then I'll include that, okay? I don't know your name, I'm so sorry.
I'm Tiber. I was wondering if there was any, if there was an opportunity for the Camp Hope for them to grow their own food, like an agricultural sort of thing.
Like a garden.
Yeah.
Oh, they have a garden classes too there.
But do they actually?
Yes, they do.
And
And they grow their vegetables and things like that. Yes, they do.
This is utopia.
And then the last question is from Alfonso, or comment.
2 short questions. One is, what's their turnover? And the other one is, you mentioned that the city put this nonprofit
The
organization.
city of Las Cruces did it. And of course, with all of the board of directors, by golly, how do you like that, people?
Is the mayor of Las Cruces a Republican?
It doesn't matter because back in the day, they all supported each other for whoever brought up the idea with the land, first of all. But that's the most important thing for me, that I get goosebumps still to this day because it's so beautiful that happened. Yes, ma'am?
So these nonprofit.
No, Las Cruces, they bought it.
These nonprofits are government initiated. Is that what you're saying?
Not necessarily.
You can answer that, ma'am.
What was the question?
These nonprofits that the city government installed, they're government initiated?
I'm not sure if they're government initiated. I think they're similar to your St. Martin's and your rescue.
Healthcare for the homeless.
So what you had said was the local government had invited the nonprofits to come and assist at the tent city. Is that what you said earlier?
The nonprofits were put there.
Yeah.
That's their offices, that's their location.
They're already there.
Well, just a quick comment if I may. It just, I mean, I'm all for it. It just,
we have to be cautious with this because the city can pull the wool over our eyes very easily, just like they did with the Head Home project or that CIT team, or the Coast team, where these shooter police officers are part of the CIT team, or the Head Home project. Hardly anybody knows there's APD running it, so that's.
Be that at some point maybe the government is like, oh, this is enough. We don't have to do any more because the tent camp is working well, and that they then would just be happy with that and then not, try to transition them to real housing.
I think Lupe's got an answer for you.
My husband is.
Oh, she wants me to answer this one. I think what it comes down to is the city of Las Cruces originally gave like 90 days, and then they gave another 90 days. And what they found was that because crime had gone down and they were doing so well, that they just finally just said, okay, you have the camp. But you're right, in Albuquerque, you're right, the city could pull the plug, but right now, the city doesn't have anything.
No, I know.
I
I'm
think
just-
Steve
wants to make a comment.
Yeah, as far as that, there's a lot of pushback from the service providers about this idea because of what you're saying. The city's made it very clear that they don't think tents are a solution. And neither does anyone in the community other than a short-term, situation that it does exist now. Because there's been a lot of talk that, well, that'll be the end of it. But their funding is very separate from Tent City, and their survival depends on that funding, and that funding is always focused on long-term housing. So I get what you're saying, but because the service providers operate in the manner in which they do, I don't feel like it'd be a threat because their funding is very separate for that. And then earlier, I just wanted to talk, because you asked about cost, but the providers now they get their contracts monthly or every 3 months or whatever, and they go out and do the whole population. Whether they're in the street or in a camp, the money's already allocated. So, because it's not necessarily new people coming in.
Sorry. Benedict, can you just pass the mic to Steve, because some people can't properly hear.
Wow, I got
There, you were just on a roll, so get on a roll
so
again.
I was just saying that I don't feel like the tents, that will be a problem because the providers themselves, the NGOs and the nonprofits, aren't going to allow it to happen. There's pushback for them currently because they feel like a tent city would try to take some of their funding. And as Ilse had mentioned earlier, it really requires very little funding. It can be self-funded in a very realistic kind of manner, and up to the point of paying rent to this city. And we're not after their money, and that does have to be clear as we move forward because they are very dug into what they're doing. And whether we agree with that or not, that's a reality, and they do have the power.
The only thing I'd like to say is that I think that part of the vision should be that a tent city, much like it is for Camp Hope in Las Cruces, a tent city here in Albuquerque would not be the permanent solution, but it would be a permanent fixture so that people can transition in and out.
Okay, so this is actually what I was hoping this evening was going to be like, okay, so that people stop being shy and actually start asking questions and getting excited about something, and then we've got something that we can work on. So I want to suggest that we can perhaps already form one working group or interest group or whatever you want to call it. And people then, I think we've now got two pretty good experts here in our midst. You've been there. We might actually organize a field trip and then actually go and see for ourselves rather than just, and was this there or how did that work? But then perhaps people who are interested in exploring this idea further, please write on your little index cards that you're interested in, what shall we call it, just tent city? Or, yeah, but we're to explore how we can actually get something done here. Okay? So then people can actually start talking to each other, and then hopefully something can come out of it. Because also it would be sad if we now just sat here and got all excited about ideas and it didn't go further. So that is also something that I think we need to put in our back pockets, that we will then actually try and get something done. Okay? So I see 2 hands simultaneous. I'll just go with Barbara first.
We want to try to plan another gathering like
I don't like
at this time so that we know if this is an issue we're interested in and want to participate further, that there is going to be another designated.
So that is something that I just put on the table, that, you know, clearly we wouldn't be able to sort everything tonight, and that this is just the start of the conversation. How those further conversations might look really depends on the groups. So perhaps if there's a group that feels, okay, this is the vision that I want to put my energy into, I want to see how it worked in Las Cruces, how it could perhaps be transposed here, taking into consideration some of the potential problems that Johnny had mentioned, etc., then that group can actually work out for themselves when they want to meet and so on. Because not everyone might want to do that, I don't know. So is that okay, Barbara? Can we leave it at that? Okay, and Sue?
So this might be really obvious, but I thought maybe it should be made explicit. There's a lot of excitement in the room about the example in Las Cruces, but maybe we should just say, okay, do we have consensus that Las Cruces is a great model that we would try to implement here in Albuquerque? And then you move forward with when should we meet again, and who wants to be on the committee, and what are the next steps, when's the road trip? Just a suggestion.
Okay, so that I would, and I see you, Father Frank, where that is concerned, that would then mean a consensus of the entire room. And something that I would still want to introduce is, for instance, Paige had already started talking about her vision is very much the sustainable, perhaps slightly alternative ideas. And then also, I mean, besides the fostering that you had mentioned, but you know, when you started talking, and I also saw this, there was a lot of discussion on the event page, which was very heartening and a bit surprising to me. It was, people were really getting into this. Obviously, people had already thought about this. And then also, there was this fantastic thread when Camp Faith was still at the Bareilles site. Chad, who's in the back of the room, and Dan Garduno and various people, and Caden was also part of that thread, started just dreaming. I mean, it was almost heartbreaking for me, because we just needed to get through the next day, and they just had these fantastic dream castles that they were building in the air, all to do with really innovative and very sustainable alternative means of growing food, of building, of whatever. So I feel that is something that we should also tap into tonight, and that's the only reason why I'm hesitating to involve the entire room. But that is also why I'm suggesting make an interest group and then get your consensus, whoever wants to sign up for that. Because then that would be the people who are specifically interested in that. And it doesn't matter, it doesn't mean that you can only choose one, hey? You know? If you've got time, please, we need a lot of people to think about it. I see you, Lupe, but Father Frank was first. Yeah, but Mike might not be able to, so still use it. And there are people with problems, so switch on. Well, could you perhaps just come forward, Father Frank?
Got it now. Thank you, Sue. The only thing regarding this, Camp Hope is not the only model, it's the closest. And I would like it if we could, I would like to suggest perhaps if we could get someone from Camp Hope to come and talk to this group. And, I'm sorry?
Yes, of course. Well, let Father Frank first finish, perhaps, but then...
And then if we do have someone from Camp Hope speak to us, that we also have, I mean, Steve's already gotten a lot of that work done. He's already researched some of the other places. And if we could just look at some of the other models, because we could take things from Camp Hope, things from the other models, and adapt them to our necessities here in Albuquerque.
All the other ones, I've searched Las Vegas, Nevada, and Arizona, and Omaha. And so for me, my best one is, of course, Las Cruces. Now, what was the other thing that I was... Oh, yes. They would have been here tonight. BA, who is the lady that holds she's the guard in the tent area. And then there's Matt Mercer, who I said that he was homeless, and he became an employee there with help me, at the Camp Hope, yes. And then there's Randy that I spoke about, that was having the meetings every Tuesday. Yeah. Yes, and he is going to be here April the 8th. He's going to be here for a homeless convention of some sort, so we'll be able to locate him, and I'm hoping he's going to have some time so that I can bring him here, and unfortunately BA and Randy won't be here. So maybe there'll be another time that we can go and make that trip if possible. Thank you.
Thanks, Luke. So that's something that I'll send to you so that we don't have to spend time now.
So I like the idea of a work party. I like the idea of getting started and like showing some results with what we're doing. But I feel like it might have been slightly vague as to what the work party would actually be doing. And if we are immediately jumping into going for this Camp Hope idea and just trying to like analogize it in Albuquerque, I think the work group should probably be doing more like research, like I forget her name, sorry. Like Lupe was saying, like research, or Father, research on what our opportunities are first, rather than immediately mobilizing to make Camp Hope.
Okay, I'm going to cut this off here because these are actually details that the group needs to sort for themselves. Okay? That is part of that autonomy, but thank you. Okay? Cool. And I don't know what your name is, I'm sorry. Do you want to speak?
I just want to say something. It's a little housekeeping thing. I went round and around looking for a parking space, so I'm parked awkwardly in two this way, and people parked along the wall. If you're leaving and you need to leave, let me know so I can move so you don't bump into my car, please. So that's all I just wanted to say. So I'm glad to be here.
Okay, so I see 3 hands. Can I ask the 3 people who've got their hands up now, is that something that you feel we need to discuss here, or is it something that you want to discuss with the group? Sue? Here. Okay, so I see Sue, your name? Jean, and your name? Melissa. And Melissa, okay.
So are you suggesting that we split up into groups? I deserved that. Sorry, Mimi. So are you suggesting we split up into little groups, different parts of the room to discuss, like you're into research, you're into road trip, you're not into that?
No.
Okay.
Because tonight is just, I think, the introduction, and I still want us to get beyond just what I'm selfish, okay? So we've already started looking at some of the things that go into a tent city, okay? definitely think that it has value. I'm not saying anything about that. But I'm hoping that we can still broaden the discussion a bit more tonight to just bring in some other ideas, like the fostering idea. I'd never thought of that. Just bright spark ideas that you think, wow, I wonder whether that would work. But just something to get our minds turning around. So it's just so that we don't get bogged down into what are we going to call our working group? Because that will be the next question. So let's not go there, and that's why I asked you whether you felt that it was necessary to discuss it here. Jean.
Yeah, well, my thing is because I want to help with Tent City, but I also want to help in long terms. And I think now that we've talked about Tent City specifically, I think we need to bring it back to the long term things, because I think we should have representatives from Heading Home to come to these meetings to find out no, I mean, if okay. No, I think we need to hear from these nonprofit groups, specifically Heading Home, to figure out what they're doing wrong. Why is their program not working? Because there are something like 6 bills brought by Jerry Ortiz-Pino that are supposed to be addressing these issues, 6 different bills. So, and there's another bill out there too that is supposed to be dealing with rapid housing. So we need to find out what is the actual policy that they're making? Is it beneficial? How can we influence that policy to make sure that it's going to function well, with what we're trying to accomplish? Because, Tent City is just one facet, as has been noted, that there's going to be people who are going to go in and they're going to want to transition out into more permanent housing. So there needs to be, Heading Home needs to have a partake in that. They need to know, well, how are they going to fit into Tent City? That's my thinking.
Okay, so I just want to hear what Melissa has to say. If you can please pass the mic to her, and then we can take it from there.
It seems to me that the state is incapable and disinterested in addressing the long-term problems of homelessness, and that capitalism as an economic system and its predatory nature requires homelessness. Within that framework, I lived in Las Cruces between 2011 and 2013, and I worked with Randy very closely, and I also know Matt Mercer. And the time that I was living there, if I remember correctly, the people who were living in Tent City confronted the city government. It was not as if the city government, out of the benevolence of their own hearts, gave them the land. They struggled at the city level for at least a year and a half, I don't quite remember. But what made it possible, in my evaluation, is one, already the established nonprofits that were working all together on the same location, and two, that they had land. The question of property is of utmost importance, and everything we're talking about is important and necessary and imperative, but unless we can find somewhere within the city of Albuquerque where people will have the opportunity to organize themselves, where people experiencing homelessness, with our facilitation, with our solidarity, they have to be able to establish themselves, organize themselves, and not be moved every day and have their existence criminalized.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right, so it just so happens that Jean and Melissa then both broached another topic that I was sort of hoping we weren't going to get to, because it just turns my tummy inside out, that we have to deal with the city. So there is another, and I won't insult anyone by calling it an interest group, but a necessity group. So if you were long-suffering with immense patience and some good debating skills, perhaps some magic wands, those would be good as well. Please put on your index card city, because that truly, as we started trying to think through various options. That's where the stumbling block generally was. So we're a group of activists who've now started doing more advocacy, but we're very happy to stand in the streets and yell at people, or in city council or wherever. So we need to think also in terms of then what type of pressure can we put on the city. We've already started, I think, and it possibly has already had some effect, but we need to be, we would also, as a group, we would like more input on whether you've got any creative ideas of what we could do, and don't go too far off the bend with that one. Caden has been really wanting to say something. Use the mic, because people can't hear.
So I personally, I've been going to Tent City since October, at least once a month. And I honestly, the way the APD was harassing them multiple times on a daily basis, the fact the mayor hasn't responded, I don't think the city's going to do anything to help these people. And maybe that's pessimistic. But I think it needs to come from the community. One thing that People's Appellate of Albuquerque, ABQ Justice, and other groups are working on a memorial microhouse for James Boyd, and fundraising from the community. And I think as an idea, you know, you could build a microhouse for everybody that APD has murdered, which would be quite a few little houses for people to stay in when they needed someplace to stay warm for a night. But I just the way the city's been, they don't see they don't see homeless people as human beings. That's really what it feels like, and it's awful and it's disgusting. And I mean, if you want it, I don't know. Talking to the city, I think, won't do much, but that's just my opinion.
Okay. So I see 3 hands. So it would first be Katie, and then it's Kathy, Karen. Sorry, I always get your surname and your name mixed up. And then it's Chad. Sorry. Oh, Colin? Yeah, okay. So Colin is in there somewhere as well. Katie, you start.
Okay. I think you're right that the city doesn't see homeless people as human beings, and I think that's why it's our job to advocate for them and our job to go to the city and try to get stuff done, because they're not going to listen to a bunch of people that they see as less than human, but maybe they'll listen if we get people who have like stupid credentials that they care about for some reason. You know what I mean? Do it? Yeah, like maybe that will make a difference.
Katie, can you just pass the mic forward to Colin, please? And then we'll just do it that way.
I read somewhere that the state of Utah had decided to fix their homeless problem by buying apartments for all of their homeless people. And I'm not expecting, well, obviously we've talked about how the city and the state aren't going to do that for us. But I was wondering if anyone had investigated the possibility of contracting privately with someone who owned an apartment that had a complex that we could use as a more permanent place rather than tents. It would be a lot safer from the elements, and would have the real estate that that non-profits could, you know, set up there and could provide us all the things that we need. And under the guise of a private contract, the city wouldn't have to intervene or felt like they had the power to intervene, because maybe we'd come up with a way to pay for that between the community and the owner of the property.
Okay, so Karen, if you don't mind, I'm just going to have Steve talk a little bit about the proposal that he's put together, because it basically exactly addresses that.
And this one is slightly different than the one that's being circulated for the tent. So where these people were sent, one of the motels on Candelaria, and the gentleman and Dinah spent a lot of time there on the ground, and I spent a little bit of time and we got to talking with him, and he was like, well, you know, I'm willing to do something with my property. So then we reached out to some of the people in the city, and it turns out that they are very, very interested. They also just got some additional funding like in the past few days. There's 60 units there at the one motel. He owns the one right next door, so we could do that in phase 2. So the way that the proposal's been structured is that I personally feel there's always going to be a need for the tents. But then we have the transitional housing. A lot of those people that do go to the transitional could be coming out of the tents and then go there for 9 to 12 months. This is the proposal that the second proposal we're working on. So they could go there for 9 to 12 months, but with very serious outreach and not just like a contract that rides around and gives cocoa, but in very meaningful ways. So when you come in, and that's the reality, I mean, that's what happened. But when you come into the program, you know, you get in there and get a little bit of rest for a few days, a week, whatever. And then what do you need? What do we need to do in the next 9 months so when you walk out of here, you're good to go? And then you actually do that outreach. And just the simplicity of some of it is ridiculous in terms of identification, IDs, like this kind of stuff. It's a huge problem. It's 40 to 55% locally from what I've seen in direct experience. And as far as Utah, because you're right, that some people don't care. But Utah and other, I think Colorado Springs, Saratoga, they have proven that housing first is cheaper than leaving people on the streets by almost on average $6,000 a year. Give someone housing, give them a caseworker, and then guess what? You could actually maybe get off of heroin. But you're not going to get off in 8-degree weather in the streets with no hope and nothing. And just because I have the mic and I'm going to stop talking, but there's been a lot of people talking about community. Like, I don't think tent cities will work without an advocacy group or community, because the time we've spent and the way that this current camp is working very well. They're developing community standards of behavior and they are enforcing them. They're maintaining 24/7 security, 24/7 security. They cleaned up the lot they're on today when they got there. They cleaned up 6 bags and stacked it. They have a tidy, clean camp, but it's because people are showing that they care about them. And like when people want to know, they say, well, how can I help? I'm like, just go hang out. When you were talking earlier about the mingle, that is so much more important. I know people need to eat, but honestly, if you're around town, food's not the major issue. It's just not, and I don't mean to sound callous. The major issue is that there's a huge disconnect between the housed and the non-housed, almost as if it's a foreign culture. And I spent enough time there people started assuming that I lived there, and they talked to me differently, like I was hard of hearing or like I was slow, all kind of like gesticulating at me. And I was just like, wow. And I can't imagine how that makes a human being feel after 6 months. They are the only community they have. That's why they are refusing the services offered to them in many cases, because they have safety amongst themselves and they have community. Like if I get over here, the person's not trying to get away from me or avoiding my thing. Like, it has a big impact. So anyways, that's what I wanted to say. But housing first does work, and it's not just the moral thing, because some people don't care. But it's the economic, prudent thing to do. So I don't even understand what we're still talking about, honestly.
I just wanted to talk about doubling up in couch hopping, because those are homeless people too. I have a woman in my home right now, and she's couch hopping right now. I think maybe even just a network of being able to find a couch to sleep on, yeah, is a good thing. And like you said, I talked to someone at St. Martin. She's the intake person, and she said the number one thing that people say when they come in here, and they say, the most thing I want is support. Whether it's family support, friends support, they want a human being, and that's what makes them successful.
And can I just say something quick about that? Okay. There was an article recently in Huffington Post. I'm a part of another organization of city manager executives. I feel like I'm undercover here. Anyway, it's a roundtable discussion. So I presented the Huffington Post report that the true reason there is
Addiction is lack of self-esteem. And when we approach anyone, whether it's somebody with no legs, poor Ray, okay, or a child who's just lost everything and really can't figure it out and falls into survival mode, we all are smart in this room. We understand the way the brain and the heart work together. There's not one of us that hasn't been insulted or assaulted in this way.
So Paige, can you perhaps then send me that Huffington Post article, and then I can perhaps
I'm
distribute
just saying,
it,
there's
eh?
so much now behind us
Yeah.
supporting our great phantasmagorical ideas tonight.
That would be really good.
Okay, just one thing quickly. I'm sort of forgot to mention this. I had very carefully written my email address on the back of the clipboards, but then I didn't tell you to actually look at it. So, but if you want to send me something or anything like that, just catch me afterwards, okay? And now it's Chad.
Well, I really want to say Steve has done an amazing job of really digging deep into this. The proposal that he's prepared is amazing. If you haven't had a chance to glance at it, I would suggest that you do. And then I wanted to add something to what you had said about the kind of key ingredients being these services, and there was an uphill fight, and having a piece of land. As I recall the story of Camp Hope in Las Cruces, they also, and I think it's what Lupe mentioned earlier, there was this very hesitant approval process. It kept being approved on a very short-term basis because everybody was so reluctant to really go ahead and commit to anything. So I personally think that that could be a key part of whatever our strategy is, having kind of a pilot project that we can demonstrate to folks on a very short-term basis, and then demonstrate some success and gather support for whatever the next step is. And along those lines, I want to say that I'm a big believer in, there's kind of in urban planning circles, as we're looking about kind of decaying infrastructure and neighborhoods that are falling into disrepair, there's this kind of growing acceptance of a model that is becoming to be called lighter, quicker, cheaper. And we're seeing it in different spheres, and it's basically what we're all talking about. It's folks like us coming together and saying, what small, inexpensive, relatively easy to implement ideas can we come up with that will have a reasonably, a good return on investment, I guess, for lack of a better phrase, you know? And so I really liked where you were going, Ilse, about what other ideas. Yeah, we have this idea about a tent city, but what other ideas, especially what interests me is stuff that is actionable on a very short-term time frame. And so I'll just throw something out there that's pretty inchoate, but it's something that occurred to me. You know, I was driving through downtown, it was this morning, actually, and I saw the folks from the Downtown Action Team who we're all familiar with their yellow vests on, cleaning around downtown. And before you jump on me for this and say, oh, maybe it's too belittling or whatever, you know, the Albuquerque Rescue Mission has been doing something like this for years. They send folks out. And actually, as I drove to my office in the Bareilles neighborhood, I saw the Rescue Mission folks out on the street sweeping and cleaning. And you know, they're not similarly attired. You almost don't notice them unless you're looking for them. And this idea of having purpose, of having a sense of a role in the community, I think that Steve was talking about, I think is incredibly important for folks. And so I don't know. I don't know what the logical conclusion is, if there even is one, but you know, maybe something along those lines where not just the folks who are homeless, but ourselves as well. Maybe we go out with them and we're engaging in some sort of projects, whether it's cleaning the neighborhood and then I think that has the double kind of role of giving folks a sense of purpose, but then also debunking this myth that everybody on the streets has no interest in participating or improving their community. So that's all I got. Where am I passing it to?
Thanks, Chad. So I'm going to jump in here just a little bit, but I do see the hands, so it's cool. I'll still include you. So what I like about what Chad has suggested is basically also looking at the people who are not housed at the moment, that they also need to start being part of the community. So just as we then need to change our views and start stepping up and filling some gaps, then perhaps we can also see whether we can work with people, whether they also want to do it. And what I particularly like about what Chad had said is that we would then do it together. So perhaps actually just, because let me just backtrack one moment. We have noticed just by changing the language, by not always referring to the people of Tent City and Camp Faith as the homeless, where it then just becomes a statistical demographic category, but then actually start referring to them as the residents, it already started shifting something. So perhaps if we were to explore, and here's another idea for a working group, because we want to start working on this and actually get some stuff done, how to change the image, how to play with the discourse, how to change the framing that is currently imposed by society, by the government, by whoever, I don't care, but it exists, and really start seeing how we can start changing the words, how the words are actually used. So, and the actions. So perhaps going out with a group of people from, whether it's then from the group that we're working with, some of the other settlements, like John has also brought into the conversation, there are all these other settlements as well. And then actually just go downtown and clean up a block, or put on some paper flowers, or do Heart of Astland, or something. That's Chad's project. So picking up rubbish and making nice hearts out of it and making it look good. So the event flyer for tonight, that actually featured some of those pieces. So repurposing not only the words, but then also how people are viewed. So I like that very much. So if you're interested in that type of thing, perhaps write down on your index card, reframing. And then we can see whether we can get a critical mass of people together who would want to do that. So first, and then I think Alfonso, and then Katie.
I'm glad you brought up the subject of language, because in simple terms, it's just a sense of belonging. You know, when you feel like you belong someplace, you start contributing, you know, on your own. You start, you know, unearthing what your gifts are. And they haven't had a chance. And we don't have to call them anything. They're folks, you know, we don't have to label them. And as a case manager, care coordinator, we've changed from seeing a client or a patient, or, you know, whatever we call them, a consumer, I hate that. And instead of saying, oh, this is what you should do, this is what you need, blah, 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 you meet them where they're at. You know, what would you like to see? How would you like to go about this? These are your options. How can I help you help yourself? We're not doing to them, we're not doing for them, we're helping them. Because when we do that, they don't have a chance to blossom. They don't have a chance to change. And if things fail and things go south, it's like, oh, well, that's what they told me. So this way, it's a sense of empowerment for folks.
Okay. Sorry, I actually forgot Tad had his hand up. Do you still want to say something, Tad?
Yes, thank you. Yes, my name Ted Mimiski. And I lived for a while. Excuse me, I didn't live, but I spent about 3 weeks and probably more. But anyway, what I want to say, we needed tent city, permanent tent city. That is first step, permanent housing. Just simple as that. We don't need that government cops control. And because government is corporation and those non-profits are also corporation profit motivated. We needed something more creative, different. Our dollars should be spent almost 90% or 99% directly go where intended. That's what I like to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Tad. So Katie next? Or Alfonso? I'm sorry, Alfonso. You next. I promise. I'm sorry. I should have stuck with the numbers. Hey.
All right. So, just speaking to the including people without houses in the community, one of my ideas was we keep talking about needing people, needing volunteers. Well, why don't we go and ask them to be our volunteers? Like ask them to help serve food or ask them to help collect donations or whatever we need. Like we should see more of them here, like at forums like this, like contributing their ideas, right? Like we should, yeah.
They were coming, except they got moved too much.
Oh.
But they were going to be here
Okay.
tonight. It's the first night.
Right.
Maybe they're not going to be bothered, but they very much wanted to be
Right,
here.
yeah.
I mean, then
Like I think that we should be including them in these planning processes and these ideas and including the ones who are willing to in our projects and not just thinking, oh, how can we serve them, but how can they serve each other and we all work together.
Katie, do you quickly want to talk about the donation box as well,
Yes,
please?
because I have to go. I have a lot of other ideas. I'll put them wherever.
Yeah.
Okay, so just real quick, I wanted to tell everyone we have a donation box for toiletries to be distributed to people who need them, and you can just come by the Peace and Justice Center and give them to the volunteer at the front desk, and he or she will put them in a box, and we're collecting them to be distributed at different places for people who don't have access to basic hygiene items. So pads, tampons, shampoo, conditioner, toilet paper, soap, anything like that. You can come anytime the Peace Center is open and just leave them with the volunteer at the front desk.
And now it's Alfonso.
Oh, my turn? Well, some of the people I wanted to direct this to just left, and that's too bad. But
I'm sorry.
real quick, I have a lot to say, but I'll make it quick. I don't have too much saliva, so don't worry. Metro campers, that's the politically correct term for a homeless person. They're survivors, they've come this far. Okay. That's how I refer to them. When they hear homeless, what we hear, what they hear in their hearts. Metro campers, they're survivors. Chad mentioned something about 99. A while back, when Head Home Project first started, one of their representatives approached me, asking me to move over to Second and Hayes back there. Anyway, I asked her how many people they, or how long has Head Home Project been going on. She told me 9 months. How many people have they helped? 9. How much money have they used? $9 million. That's what she told me. 999. That's right. You know, that about volunteers and so forth, about cleaning around and so forth. You know, the 4th Street Mall that does not exist anymore, I've been cleaning that every Sunday for the last, 9 years? Mostly by myself after we have our lunch. I need help. Anybody wants to volunteer, you're more than welcome to come over, and we're at the park now. You know, sometimes I'm tired, I'm hurt, I'm out of town. How can you use the help? Well, we're at Robinson Park now because remember the city destroyed the 4th Street Mall just to get rid of me and the homeless. I guess they felt humiliated that we're one of the very few cities in this nation where we can share a meal with someone without their permission. The other thing is,
I'm just going to interrupt you there, Alfonso. I'm not trying to be rude. I'll get all those details from Alfonso, you know, like times, whatever, and then I'll put it in the email that I'll send out.
This idea that Chad had about fast solutions and so forth, well, it goes along with, I don't know, the woman that was
Paige,
her idea about foster caring, and with what you started with, is the care packages. it opens up a way to talk to folks, get to know their name, get to see their situation, their problems, and so forth, and then we can consider them couch surfing and so forth. But if we start building a culture of doing that, taking care of each other, instead of the government always doing it and playing Robin Hood. Well, one last thing, just consider this. The city has bought a lot of property, a lot of open space. Let's use that property correctly. Remember, for them to have destroyed the 4th Street Mall, they had to destroy some laws. They had to or overlook some laws. For one, check and the balance was the Environmental Planning Commission. They took away all their authority and gave it to one hearing officer. This way they can bypass all these things and destroy the 4th Street Mall. And we were using it properly. We're gathering in peace, sharing a meal. There's friendship, there's music, there's food, and they destroy us to try to get rid of us. So I do not trust the city government, as you can see. Let's take over.
Thank you very much. Bernadette, please, right at the back.
Hi, my name is Catherine. I consider myself a homeless person. I said my name is Catherine. I consider myself a homeless person. I'm also an honor student at CNM. So I wanted to address a few things that I was listening to. First of all, the attitude toward the police. I would like to see treated as more of individual experiences instead of a stereotype of all the APD, because I have had positive experience with police myself in my lifetime. So I think they should be addressed as individuals instead of stereotyped and labeled as a
Catherine,
group.
can you speak a bit
Yeah,
louder?
I think
or
that
that's it.
in regards to the police, which was something we were talking about at the beginning, that the APD, when we say APD, we're labeling the whole group. And I think they should be addressed as individuals because we're stereotyping the APD, which probably creates more animosity. Another thing I want to address is the possibility that Habitat for Humanity might be a group that might be interested in helping. And I want to point out that all people that rent from landlords are kind of like homeless people. They don't have ownership. And so a possibility is on property tax of apartment buildings to be a source of funding for homes. And I'd like to remind people about thinking globally and acting locally. And I'm a person that got a little down in the dumps about my situation because it's very challenging. And even being an honor student, I still have challenges. And so I was asked to join up with the Rail Yard Market Project, and I was instrumental in a lot of the things that we ended up doing. And it was very positive for me because it gave me a sense of worth, sense of worth as a person. But what I also was hoping to hear from at this meeting was people that were actually living in the tent city. When I was doing volunteer work with the Rail Yard Market, I remember giving some food to the people that I had acquired either from here or with my EBT card. I know other farmers had donated food, and we had donated to the shelter that's near there. It was rather small at that time, so I'm a little I watched the news, and so I kind of didn't know how so many people ended up over there. But anyways, those are just the comments that I wanted to make that might be helpful.
Those are very good ideas. Thank you very much, Catherine. I'm also just glancing at the time, so I'm not going to cut you off. I would like to hear what you have to say. But then perhaps let's wrap it up now. Have a few more last comments, and then it could be general, it could be something specific. I think we started moving into various directions, but then now is actually where the work starts coming in, because there are all these ideas floating about. I hope you did note down your ideas, the things you're interested in. I'm certainly going to look at the video that Mike very kindly did for us tonight, just as while you were here, because Charlie then didn't arrive. So thank you very much, Mike. And then, yeah, actually, that's a good idea. So we will draw some of those ideas out. I'll try and summarize. I'm not going to do a transcript or anything grandiose like that, but just some of the ideas that were broached here, try and organize them a little bit, send out an email so that you've got an idea of what the input was, and then where you were interested in being part of a working group, that working group then sort of needs to sort itself and then get going and perhaps set up another meeting, whatever. What we noticed with the police brutality work that this group started with was we started pushing and prodding in so many different ways, in so many different places, that eventually the message did start coming across. So perhaps we need to do the same thing here, so that it's not just one model or one idea, but that we literally do a swarm. That is still the most successful protest model. Swarm all over the place and they don't know where to catch you. So I'll do when I send out the email, I'll also ask for people's availability, and then we might actually be able to have another full meeting, or we can see how it works. So I'm not going to commit to that, but something more is going to happen. And then the big thing is, wherever you go, you're going to encounter some people who, whether they're housed or not, they might just seem as if they need a little bit of a hand up. So then just start thinking within yourself how you can do better, in a sense. And what is your name, please?
Terry.
Terry.
I'm sorry, you want the mic? I was going to speak, but you can have the mic if you want. Where's Bernadette? That's okay. Oh, I don't want to get up, right?
Hi, my name's Terry, and recently I've been checking out the senior citizen places around town. There's a bunch of them. You probably know. There's one in Bareilles. There's one. It's a senior citizen place, and it's for those that are 50 years plus. They're all over. The city invests in them, and they're very cool. And I'm thinking, well, that means everybody in the city that's 50 plus for an annual fee of $13, which seems very modest to me. And that we might be able to push the envelope a little bit to include those that don't have permanent housing. Some of they offer classes. Some of them have little fitness centers. They teach yoga. Some of them have meals cooked on site. And it's, I thought it was an idea that we might want to pursue as far as pushing. And I think it was the fellow back here, Alonzo, who said something about a Bill of Rights for those without housing. And I think that's a nice short-term place to be. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Sue, please. Can I just quickly get a show of hands? Okay.
My fault, my bad. For what? We just want hands?
No, sorry. Who? No. I lost the plot there. Sorry, I thought I was. Who else still wants to speak? Don't everyone now put up their hands. But I know Sue, and you would want to speak. Anyone else? And Mimi? Oh yes, we have to hear Mimi speak, definitely. And Nora. Okay. And then I think it's okay. So let's start with Sue.
I just want to say I've been really moved, and I'm going to get all verklempt. I'm just so impressed with the folks who have been working with Tent City and Camp Faith and feeding hungry folks and helping people move and stay an inch ahead of the cops, and I'm just so impressed with what you guys have done. And I also want to thank the people that made tonight possible, because this has been a really beautiful thing that happened tonight. Great ideas, and there's just a good vibe in the room of compassion, right? And I just wanted to thank everybody who was responsible, especially Ilse.
Hi, my name's Lou Garcia. I actually work for New Life Homes. We offer affordable housing. As of today, we did house a woman that was in Tent City 1 and 2. She moved in today, and it actually makes us proud that we could actually give her a home. We know we can't help everybody, but my theory is one person at a time. The reason we actually can offer affordable housing is because there is so much funding available through the city of Albuquerque. We are putting in for different projects so we can expand our project and bring more affordable housing. We have people that are homeless that can literally pay zero and have an apartment. It depends on their income. But of course, we get a lot of opposition from neighborhood associations, literally putting stops to our projects because they don't want, exactly. They don't want, for instance, people with lower means of income living in their neighborhoods. So that's what I wanted to say. I have cards. Feel free to ask me for a card. Any other questions, please. Give me. We are Sundowner. Absolutely, we are definitely. Right now we have 105 units on the west side. We have 71 at Sundowner, 30 at Luna Lodge. We have 39 at Kentucky and 19 at Broadway. Believe it or not, I do have openings, but they're for the 50% AMIs, which means that they've got to make up a certain amount of money. And what we're trying to do right now is we're actually trying to ask the city for more funding so we can offer the COC programs, which are our homeless units, so they can come in and start a life and not be stressed out about how they're going to pay their rent, how they're going to pay their bills. So that's our whole goal at this time.
Okay, so I just want to jump in here because I had a meeting with the CEO.
John Bloomfield.
Yeah. We've got a certain South African connection.
He
so
does.
besides that, we then spoke about also the model at the moment is if you were to go to the website and perhaps do that because then you've got a better idea of what they offer. You'll see that where the application forms are concerned, because people need to apply to then get into the homes, there are two groups. So there's the Broadway and Kentucky form and then the rest. So because I then broached this matter with John, that in the largest proportion of the buildings that they have, there are all these questions about, drug-free and crime-free, et cetera, and it sounded as if it was again this problem that if someone is still trying to get there, they're excluded. So John then explained to me that is because they own these facilities, but they don't manage all of them themselves. But that is going to change shortly. So the two that they already do manage, they don't have those onerous restrictions. So that will then also change. So I'm just putting that out there because I know that many people do have that question. Yeah, but then there are still all these people who fall through the cracks. So they're now going to start managing all their facilities, and therefore the whole demographic that they can serve is then just that much broader. So John and I will still talk some more. There are a few ideas, and also to put pressure and lead by example and all that type of thing. Kathy, I think you had a question for Luke? Okay. Okay, so Mimi.
I just wanted for people to, in progressing or moving this work forward, to keep in mind that there are undocumented people who are homeless, and they have a double whammy. For example, Healthcare for the Homeless is a wonderful resource, and they serve anyone that's homeless. But if they have to have an x-ray, if you're undocumented, you can't access it because you have to do that through UNM and UNM, et cetera, et cetera. Same thing where you have government funding. It looks like a local project like the county senior citizen disabled housing. I went to try and access that for somebody. Same thing, because it's federal money and federal money is not available. So I just want to ask that aspect be kept in mind as work goes
So
forward.
Mimi, I've got a question for you then. The Coalition for Immigrant Justice, do you guys then also work with people who are homeless? Because then we would definitely want to then perhaps include you, Renee, Justin, whoever.
Infrequently, yes, infrequently. But
Okay.
it does come up. I mean, that population is there.
Right,
So
right.
You want to whatever comes out of this as it evolves, not to be restricted, to be access.
Okay, thank you, Mimi. I've completely lost the plot. I don't know who else still wanted to speak. Nora. Nora wanted to speak, and who else? And then that's it.
Okay, who does?
Okay, Nora.
Nora.
So Nora is the last speaker. Okay, is that cool with everyone? Cool.
Okay, and I'll try to make this quick. There's a couple of things that I'd done today that I talked to a homeless guy that had told me that if you ever make him a care package, that there's some things that is sometimes excluded, like flashlights and batteries, if they can get it, toothpaste and, just like simple stuff to be on the go. Socks are very important, possibly underwear, but basically the protein bars, because they don't get to eat 3 meals a day like what normal people should. Peanuts or walnuts, whichever that, but some of the things that would be needed is like oatmeal, Roman noodles, and baby wipes are the one thing that I had added to my care packages, and regular Tide soap, something to wash with when they need it on a pinch. Laundry detergent, just maybe small portions of them. And of course, the antiviral soap. So with that being said, there's some other things that I was thinking of that would be awesome to do as you were announcing things to do. Jolene was supposed to be here tonight, and she did talk to me about this, so I thought I'd share this with you. She talked about getting all the shelters together, everyone that can come in and just put some of their input. Joy Junction, Brother Matthias Good Shepherd, Rescue Mission, and just to have a brainstorming with them, a forum of sorts. And I have to add this only because I have a little bit of a problem with the government giving us, or the city government giving us vouchers that were not paid by the city. So some of those vouchers that were given were not worth the paper they were written on. I just had to put that in. The other things are, I am really having a problem with some of the people that want resources but cannot get them because there's not really a book out to get the resources they absolutely need to really get the help they need. Resource book would be ideal. All the agencies, but also there's resources that have things like some of the things that they do have, but there are also resource books that can get them into rehab. Like La Placita, they don't have some of those added to some of the resource books. So some of the resource books are a little bit off kilter when they really need them at the time they need them. So, and that's about it. I have a few other things that I can add when we do have our meetings, but solar could even be used without even costing a whole lot. So that's just my idea. Thanks.
Okay, just use the mic, please, so that everyone can hear Alfonso.
One is we're here in this neighborhood. We have all these students, and a lot of them get backpacks every 6 months. Or if we could add those backpacks to those care packages. Also, they're all always getting iPhones, new iPhones. Can we get those? This way they have the capability of recording, and so this way they can help us police the police. Thank you.
Guys, you rock. Thank you.